This is the Cool Meanderings with Dr. Germ G podcast. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Cool Meanderings with Dr. Germ G. I'm your host, Dr. Germ G, that aspiring writer, educator, lover of comics, movies, sports, and an occasional book or two. Well, I'm back, and I'm happy to say that I got a chance to see Captain America: Brave New World this weekend. And I don't really get all the fuss from critics. I know it's not the highest rated MCU film, but I think this is the 35th MCU film. And I have to say, it was pretty good, man. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed the action. From start to finish, I wasn't bored. I mean, I don't know. I don't really get all the fuss. I thought Julius Ona, the director, did a great job. It was well done. I don't know. The screenplay was put together by Rob Edwards and Malcolm Spellman and Dalen Musso and Julius Ona and Peter Glanz, with help from Rob Edwards, Malcolm Spellman, and Dalen Musso. Look, I thought it was great. I don't know. I thought the action was spectacular. Anthony Mackie, I'm sold with him as new Captain America. The way the narrative worked, the way the story worked, it was a great continuation from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This movie, I mean, it threaded together 3 other MCU projects: Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Actually 4. It threads together 4 projects, really. That's Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Captain America: Civil War, The Incredible Hulk, The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton from 2008, and The Eternals. So you get all these threads. And in addition, it sets up the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But specifically with the future expected mutant saga. I mean, there's a lot going on in this movie. I mean, it really was. And the way it was done, it wasn't cheeky. It didn't feel like fan service. I mean, it was a great story. Now, look, in terms of the suspense and the political thriller type narrative, I would say that it was, you could make some comparisons to Captain America: Winter Soldier, but this was different. And you know what? I think Anthony Mackie as Captain America works. I think this film, it goes out of its way to help viewers that are interested in understanding. It helped those that are interested, and I emphasize those that are interested, helps them understand how and why Sam Wilson is the new Captain America. So yeah, I enjoyed it, man. I don't know. I thought it was a blast. I thought that it would get boring at times, but it didn't. Danny Ramirez as Falcon, I thought that worked. Shira Haas, whoa, her character in this movie is, man, yeah, she's a little. You know, for a little person, man, I tell you, stature doesn't mean a thing in the espionage world. Let me tell you. She shows that stature and size don't mean a thing. It's all about the skills. And her character displays all the skills of someone deep in that world. What a great character. It was great to see Isaiah Bradley, played by Carl Lumbly again. Central to the plot. Hey, I like Giancarlo Esposito's character too. And I have to say, you know, if there was anything that I might pick at a little bit, I thought Tim Blake Nelson's character, who he reprised his role as Samuel Stearns from the Incredible Hulk movie. I mean, it's okay. I thought his character was okay. From a it was cool. I thought I thought that the way that they threaded his backstory into the movie was interesting, and it made sense. But I wanted just a little bit more. It was definitely better than previous iterations of Marvel villains, for sure. I mean, the MCU definitely stepped up here. I mean, this is like they did better with the leader than they did with, for example, Gore the God Butcher or MODOK. Much better here. But if there was an area where they could have taken it to another level, I would say it would have been with the leader. But what they gave us was pretty good. It was pretty good, And at the end, it kept the suspense going, even with the end credit scene. I wanted more. So yeah, and listen, Harrison Ford as General Ross, man, of course, William Hurt did a great job. Rest in peace. Great job playing General Ross. But yeah, I was digging Harrison Ford as General Ross, and we all know who he turns into. I mean, they weren't hiding that in the promos, so yeah, it was, man, and that whole sequence with Ross as the Red Hulk. Ooh, man, yeah, it was great. It was great. It was fun. It was. I wouldn't say it was a entirely complex movie. I mean, there were some elements that were suspenseful. There were some thrills. It does feel like a political thriller, but also like a comic book movie. I don't know. I like the way they balanced that. And I don't get all the hate. I don't want to make accusations, but I suspect that for some people, the idea of a black Captain America is just it's a difficult thing to just digest, and that's okay, man. Listen, he's not Steve Rogers. I mean, look, we all know that. And that's okay. He doesn't have to be Steve Rogers. That's a different type of Captain America. Now, if I could rate this movie on the scale of the 4 Captain America movies, I would say I would rate this one 3. I think it's better than the first Avenger, but it's not quite on the level. It's not quite on the level of Winter Soldier and Civil War. Personally, I like Civil War more because of all of the different characters, and I just love their adaptation of the Civil War comic. But I think most people probably would prefer the Winter Soldier story. And it's a good story. Don't get me wrong, it's a good story. It's a good movie. The Winter Soldier movie felt like a good suspense thriller, not a comic book movie. And that's fine. That's totally fine. I prefer a blend of suspense and comic book genre. And this is what you get with Captain America Brave New World. So now, from my understanding, I was looking at Forbes's, I believe it's Forbes's our article about the box office, and it looks like worldwide, Brave New World is probably going to get close to 200 million, or roughly 190, 192 million. 100 million domestically over 4 days. That's pretty good, man. Hey, good job. Good job. Yeah. I mean, look, is it $1 billion movie? No. But it's pretty good, man. It's a good start. I think Marvel is off to a good start in 2025 with this flick and the Friendly Neighborhood Spiderman series, which I'm enjoying. I definitely love. I didn't know that Coleman Domingo was playing Norman Osborn, but I love his character, man. The way they got the waves going. Oh, it's dope. It's dope. I love it. I love it. I love what they did with Norman Osborn. Wow. His character is dope. And this is spoiler warning, but the part of the show, this was in the most recent episode. I believe it's episode 8, where Norman says to Peter, "With great power comes great respect." I was like, no, what? So that tells you where that series is heading. It's interesting. Yeah, it's not in the MCU continuity, but I still dig it. I think Marvel has hit a couple of home runs here with Captain America: Brave New World and Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. From all accounts, Daredevil: Born Again, which comes out next month, starting March 7th, should be their third home run. I think they're going to be. I think by the time they get to the summer, by the time they get to May, there will be quite a bit of hype for the end of the multiverse saga and what comes next. Now, I'm not expecting a whole lot from Thunderbolts. The second trailer. It looks like the Sentry is going to be, I'm assuming, the villain of the movie. And look, I think the Thunderbolts, it's okay. And look, and it could be that the trailer just doesn't do the film justice, and that's a great thing. But from what I've seen and what I've read, Thunderbolts, it's important filler. I'm sure that it's going to tie into what they're trying to do going forward. But I'm not anticipating that one like I am Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four to me is, that's the bridge. If they continue with this momentum and then they nail Fantastic Four, then Marvel is set, man. From there, if they want to do like a Riri Williams, The Hood TV series, that's fine. I mean, and that one also may have an impact. We just don't know. I think the theme here is Marvel's on a roll. Give it a chance because they may surprise. They just may surprise. I was pleasantly surprised by watching Captain America: Brave New World. Had a great experience. Enjoyed it thoroughly. I mean, I was waiting for the low moment, the cringy moments. They didn't come. It was great from start to finish. I mean, maybe at the very end when Sam was having that chat in the hospital with the Falcon. Yeah. I mean, maybe, but not really. It was great, man. There wasn't a lot of cringe. It was a great movie. I mean, and it went fast too. I was like, wow. I mean, it just was an enjoyable watch. If you want almost nearly 2 hours of just high octane fun, these were, I would say, medium sized stakes. Stakes weren't super high, but there were stakes for sure. It was good. It was a good movie, man. And I think if we go into these with reasonable expectations, I think we will be pleased by the product. Now, in terms of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show, I tend to watch the episodes anywhere between 7 and 9. I've got a 5-year-old, and if he's still not in bed, I'm not worried about it. Now, once he goes to sleep, the nightcap, he goes to sleep, my partner is asleep, then I turn on Amazon Prime for Invincible. This third season of Invincible. Chef's kiss, man. Just chef's kiss. I mean, it's just so on point. I love how they not only tease future seasons, but they really get into the nitty gritty of these characters. The character development in Invincible is amazing. It's just amazing, man. I love it. I love how you can see how they're developing these relationships and the complexity of those relationships. Oh man, I'm not going to spoil anything, but definitely watch Invincible. If you follow the comics, you'll be pleased by what you're seeing in season 3. There's hope that we may get to see quite a bit of what you might have followed in the comics that could take Invincible for at least another season or 2, if not 3. I mean, there's lots of stories to tell, so that's awesome. They're doing 8 to 10 episodes a season. So much they can tell. So I love it. I do. I love it. And so this is a little bit of a short take. I just wanted to chime in and give my 2 cents on Brave New World and where I think Marvel's heading. Hey, for those Chiefs fans out there, I'm sorry. I started to put together a podcast episode to predict a Chiefs loss, but then I thought, well, let's just see how it all plays out. But I was not surprised. No one's won 3 Super Bowls in a row. I mean, look, we're in Super Bowl 59. It's very difficult to win 2 in a row. So to win 3 would have been just historic. And look, the problems that plagued Kansas City all season, they were exposed thoroughly in that Super Bowl. They had the same issues a couple of years ago when they lost to Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. Look, they just could not protect. They could not protect Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the tackles, the guards, the line just broke down, man. They just broke down, and against a defensive front like Philly, I mean, I don't think they blitzed the entire game. So, hey, what do you expect? And not only that, listen, when these 2 teams played 2 years ago, Philly only lost by a field goal, and quite frankly, they beat themselves. They fumbled away a touchdown. They allowed a hobbled Mahomes to scramble for 30, 40 yards. They got beat on some weird pass plays in the fourth quarter. That was a strange game, but it felt like the Eagles could have easily stayed in the game. I mean, there was a dubious pass interference call at the end. So going into this one, the Eagles were pretty much the same team with some upgrades on the defensive line, the secondary, and at running back. So you thought, wow, if it's more or less the same team, but they've upgraded. Meanwhile, Kansas City is more or less the same, but a little weaker up front. It was easy to assume that this could swing the Eagles' way. I don't think a lot of people predicted that it would swing in such a wild way. I mean, wow. I mean, the score doesn't even indicate how much of a blowout it was. I mean, it could have easily been 47-3 or 47-10. I mean, the Eagles just basically, what was it, 40-6, and they just sort of took the foot off the gas and, let Mahomes get a few garbage time touchdowns, but emphasize let. They let him get a few garbage time touchdowns. So, yeah, I mean, this was a lopsided game. One that we hadn't seen in a while. Now, oddly enough, in New Orleans has seen quite a few lopsided Super Bowls. And, and both Kansas City, going into the game, both Kansas City and the Eagles were part of lopsided Super Bowls in New Orleans. As a matter of fact, you go back. The first Super Bowl played in New Orleans in January of 1970. Kansas City, they won their first Super Bowl by beating up on the Minnesota Vikings, who were, I believe, expected to win because they were then the NFL and the AFL right before the merger. But Kansas City won and won handily, 23-7. I mean, it wasn't even close. I mean, it was over by the third quarter. So that was the first lopsided victory at a Super Bowl in New Orleans. The second one, I mean, you've got to go to January in 1978. That's when we had Super Bowl 12. And this is the Dallas Cowboys and Denver Broncos. It was an ugly game, but the score was lopsided once again, 27-10, Dallas. Denver, despite turnovers on both sides, Denver really just never had a shot. I mean, they were out from the beginning. So lopsided game 2. Lopsided game number 3. January of 1981. The Philadelphia Eagles. Their first appearance in the Super Bowl. They get throttled by the Oakland Raiders. And this was also another game where the winning team took their foot off the gas because Oakland was up. They were up ahead pretty easily for most of the game. But they ended up winning 27-10. Could have easily been 31-10, 35-10, 35-3. But yeah. And then if you go, let's see, 6 years later, January 86, you have the infamous Super Bowl 20. The Bears, the 85 Bears, beat the daylights out of the New England Patriots, 46-10. And ironically, that would be the Patriots' first of 11 Super Bowls. The first of 11. And what's strange is that for Chicago, it was their first of only 2 appearances. They would appear in 2 Super Bowls. They appeared in Super Bowl 20 and in Super Bowl 30. No, they appeared in Super Bowl 41, which they lost to the Indianapolis Colts 29-17, but that's okay. Anyway, but for this particular game, two interesting franchises that would eventually, over time, go in very different directions. But before one night, the Bears franchise was on top of the football world in an emphatic way, 46-10. And quite frankly, that game could have been even worse. Bears could have easily scored 60. It was that kind of a game. I mean, they just looked a step faster in every play. So New Orleans has had its share. Oh, and lest I forget, my San Francisco 49ers beat the daylights out of the Denver Broncos January 1990, 55-10. Another Bayou blowout. 55-10, the most points scored in a Super Bowl. 55-10. The biggest beatdown margin, 45 points, happened in New Orleans. So my friends, New Orleans is a special place for Super Bowl beatdowns. Oh yes, and the Patriots would go back to New Orleans once again in January of 1997 to get beat down by the Packers. Although I'll say the score was 35-21, and in fairness, it was a little bit more competitive than the score would indicate. So we're not going to call that one a beatdown. But they still lost by 2 scores. But anyway, my point though is that New Orleans has had its share of some interesting Super Bowls. It certainly has. Now they've had some nail biters too. Because the Patriots would go back and win their first Super Bowl in New Orleans. Oddly enough, they go back to New Orleans for a third time. Third time was the charm. And they beat the heavily favored St. Louis Rams, who were favored by 17 points in that game. They beat them 20-17. I still can't believe it happened. And we're not going to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. But there are some suspicions and doubts about that game. But nonetheless, the Patriots won 20-17. So there have been some interesting games in New Orleans, and this was one of the, I would say, I think it's probably in the middle of the pack because it kind of was a little bit anticlimactic. I mean, I think most people picked the Eagles, although the betting line had the Chiefs winning by 1.5 points. I think most people who knew football figured the Eagles would find a way to win, but very few predicted a blowout. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, so kudos to those fans who held on and picked the Eagles. And for KC fans, hey man, look at it this way. They won 3 out of the last 5 Super Bowls. Actually, 3 out of the last 6. And, think of the Trent Green days, okay? Think of those days in the early, the late 90s, early 2000s when, you were scoring lots of points, but you couldn't stop anyone. Remember those days? You'd have, 13 wins, 14 wins, but you couldn't stop anyone. You couldn't stop an old lady from walking through, from getting in the end zone. So, I mean, times have changed and Kansas City has improved. I mean, they've won some championships and you guys have a lot to be proud of and thankful for. But, times the window's opened and it eventually closes. And maybe we're getting close to that point for Kansas City. Hey, we're definitely getting close to that point for my San Francisco 49ers. I mean, if they don't pull out another appearance within the next 2 years, I mean, they're going to have to rebuild. And, oh, wow. Well, anyway, I just wanted to chime in and give my thoughts on Captain America Brave New World. And I figure I'd throw you a couple of anecdotes about the Super Bowl. It's been a couple of weeks now. It's been a week. Yeah, it's only been a week. Yeah, the Super Bowl was a week ago today. It feels like a lifetime ago. Anyway. All right. Well, for those that are observing, have a wonderful President Day weekend. And to the rest of the world, I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
This is the Cool Meanderings podcast with Dr. Germ G.